I cleaned his father's diapers for 8 months while my husband traveled for business. One day, I found a receipt for a diamond bracelet gifted to his ex. His mom said, "You're the nanny, not the wife." When I asked him, he said, "She deserves nice things. You? You're just here." So I set up cameras before I left for work. My name's Diane. I'm 42. I live just outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, in a little town called Camp Hill. My story starts quiet, not dramatic, just ordinary. I worked as a nurse part-time, mostly hospice care, and I was married to a man named Travis. 52, self-proclaimed entrepreneur, insurance broker by trade, slick talker by nature. We'd been together for 10 years. No kids together, though he had a grown daughter from a previous marriage who wanted nothing to do with either of us. The thing is, I thought we were okay. Not perfect, but okay. We bought this modest ranch home 5 years ago after his father got diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's. It was close enough to the VA hospital and small enough to manage. I didn't expect life to get easier, but I didn't expect to carry it alone either. 8 months ago, Travis's dad, Frank, started going downhill. Fast. Dementia, tremors, bed sores, incontinence. You name it. And Travis, he suddenly had business trips all over the place. Atlanta, Dallas, Denver, Chicago. He was gone more than he was home. At first, I believed him. Who wouldn't? He'd always worn nice suits, had stacks of brochures from conferences, took calls at odd hours. He made money, even if it never seemed to show up in our joint account. Meanwhile, I stayed back, worked 2 12-hour shifts a week at the hospice center, then came home and changed Frank's diapers, fed him, wiped his drool, calmed his hallucinations at night. I bathed him, dressed him, and I even cut his toenails when he got too agitated to let the visiting aide do it. That man didn't like anyone but me. Sometimes he called me Julie, his late wife's name. I just smiled and let it go. And Travis's mom, Cheryl? She did absolutely nothing. She'd sit in the recliner, chain-smoking menthols, watching the game show network like the whole world owed her peace and quiet. Sometimes, I'd ask if she could maybe hold Frank's hand while I prepped dinner. She'd just look at me like I asked her to scrub a public toilet. Her favorite line, "You're the nurse. This is what you're paid to do." I'd remind her I wasn't being paid. She'd shrug and say, "Nanny, nurse, wife, it's all the same. You're here to serve." I kept swallowing that poison because I loved Travis. Or at least, I thought I did. One Tuesday in March, after 8 months of this hell, I was changing Frank's sheets while he slept, and I went into the laundry room to grab fresh linens. That's where I saw it. A small paper bag tucked between the detergent bottles. It was a receipt. $3,400. Diamond tennis bracelet. From Jared. Bought in downtown Baltimore. My birthday was the week before. I got a gas station card and a $5 scratch-off. I unfolded the receipt again. On the back, written in looping cursive, it said, "You always sparkle just like you used to. Love always, T." I froze. My heart did that thing it does when it knows something before your brain admits it. I took the receipt and went straight to Cheryl. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. "Hey," I said, "do you know if Travis gave this to anyone? It doesn't look like a client gift." She took one drag of her cigarette, blew out, and said, "Why would he give you anything like that? That's not your kind of gift." I blinked. "Excuse me. You're not his wife, honey. You're the help. He's got real taste, classy women. You were just convenient." That was the first time I felt my entire chest go cold. Not burning. Cold. I asked her flat out, "Are you saying he's seeing someone else?" She laughed like I just told her I thought the Pope was a woman. "Sweetie, of course he is. You don't keep a man like Travis warm with spit-up diapers and sippy cups of Ensure. Grow up." I went upstairs, locked myself in the guest bathroom, and stared in the mirror for a full 20 minutes. That night when he came home, I confronted him. I held the receipt up. He didn't flinch. He actually smirked. "That's none of your business," he said, loosening his tie. "But if you must know, yes. It was for someone else. Someone who reminds me of who I used to be. Not this sad little home you've built." My voice cracked. "Who is she?" He didn't answer right away. Then he whispered, like it was some secret joke we were both in on. "Michelle." Michelle was his ex-wife. The one who walked out on him 15 years ago after he accidentally maxed out 3 of her credit cards and put her name on a failed car dealership lease. "She deserves nice things," he said. You're just here. You're convenient. A placeholder." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just turned around and walked upstairs. The next morning I installed cameras. Every room, including the basement. Hidden but not too hidden. I wanted it to be just visible enough in case anyone smart looked. I went to work like normal. 12-hour shift. Wiped 3 people's butts. Fed one through a tube. Listened to a Vietnam vet cry about his missing brother for the 3rd day in a row. I came home and watched the footage. He was on the phone with someone. That same stupid smirk on his face. "Yeah," he said. "She'll be out until at least 10. That gives us time." Then he said, "No, Cheryl won't say a word. She knows the deal." And then I saw Michelle walk in, like nothing had changed. Same red hair, same overbite, same fake laugh that made me want to punch drywall. They kissed, right in my kitchen, the one I paid to renovate last year when Travis couldn't afford a contractor. Michelle glanced around and said, "This place smells like soup and bleach." He laughed and said, "That's the nurse. She thinks this is her house." I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed next to Travis, pretending to be out cold while he snored like a pig beside me. My mind wasn't racing, it was clear. Focused. Something inside me had snapped. Not loudly. Not with fireworks. Quietly, like a rope pulled too tight. I stopped hoping he'd change. I stopped blaming myself. The next morning, I made his coffee just the way he liked it. 2 sugars, no cream, and packed his lunch like always. Turkey sandwich, a bag of kettle chips, 2 pickle spears. Routine was how I bought time. He left at 7:30 sharp. That gave me 2 hours before Cheryl woke up, and 3 hours before my shift at the hospice center. I called my cousin Rachel. She lived in Lancaster, about 45 minutes away. Rachel had a good head on her shoulders. She was divorced, worked as a paralegal, and didn't trust anyone with slick hair and shiny watches. I asked her for help. "I need to find out if he's legally still tied to his ex-wife," I said. "Why?" she asked. "Because I think he's moving money to her. I think I've been paying the bills while he plays house with her behind my back." Rachel didn't ask any more questions. She just said, "Give me 48 hours. Meanwhile, at home, Cheryl started acting bolder. She stopped pretending to ignore me. One night while I was feeding Frank mashed potatoes, she leaned against the doorway and said, "He's never going to leave her, you know. Michelle. She's the one he loves. Always has." I didn't even look up. She kept going. "I think it's funny. You played nursemaid, maid, cook. All while he was flying first class to meet her in hotel rooms. You should have seen the pictures they took in Charleston." That one stung. She lit a cigarette right there in the hallway. I said nothing. Just got up, opened the window, and finished feeding Frank. By the end of that week, I had everything I needed. Rachel called. He never took Michelle off the old insurance policy. In fact, he added her back as a beneficiary 4 months ago. I stopped breathing for a second. He also moved $18,000 from your joint account to a personal one last month. Then it went to an account under Michelle's name. I checked. Same social security number. "And what about our house?" I asked. Rachel hesitated. "He refinanced it. Quietly. Took out equity. You weren't listed on the paperwork." So there it was. I wasn't just being cheated on. I was being erased. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was calm. Too calm. The next morning, I printed out all the camera footage. Every clip where Michelle entered the house. Every word Travis said. I made 3 copies. One went to Rachel for safekeeping. One went into a locked fireproof box under the floorboard in the attic. And the third, that one stayed with me. I started laying groundwork, calling elder care homes, quietly asking around at work. A friend of mine knew someone who ran a state-subsidized veterans facility just outside Allentown. Not fancy, but clean, with a 24-hour staff. They even had room for Frank. The hard part was telling him. I knelt by his chair one afternoon, took his frail hand, and said, "Frank, would you feel safe living somewhere with more help? Somewhere with people who can take care of you full-time?" He stared at me for a while. Then he said, "You're not my daughter." "I know," I said softly, "but I care about you anyway." 2 days later, we moved him in. Travis never noticed. He was in Detroit for meetings. Cheryl didn't even get off the couch to say goodbye. She just said, "He'll be dead in a year." What's the point? I called the gas company next, told them to schedule a temporary disconnection for repairs, then the cable, then the Wi-Fi. I timed it all for the same day, Friday. That Friday, Travis flew out for a long weekend client pitch in Phoenix. Cheryl was at home, alone, with no internet, no heat, and no Frank. I left for work as usual, kissed him goodbye, and even said, "Good luck on your meeting, babe." But I didn't go to work. I went straight to a hotel Rachel booked for me, and I waited. By 3 p.m., my phone exploded. It was Travis. 10 missed calls. Then a text. "Where's my mother? What the hell did you do?" Then Cheryl started calling. I turned my phone off and slept like I hadn't slept in a year. The next day, I logged into the home cameras from my laptop. Michelle had come back. Only this time, the house wasn't clean. It was cold. There was no food. No sheets on the bed. Cheryl was yelling. Michelle was screaming. And Travis, he was trying to calm them both down, while pacing in the kitchen, like a rat trapped in a maze. I smiled. Then I called the credit card companies. I froze every card we shared. Then I called the bank, told them about the unauthorized equity transfer, told them I'd be opening a case with a fraud claim. Then I called the hospice center, told them I needed 3 weeks off. Emergency family situation. I spent the next 2 nights watching my house fall apart, quietly, from a distance. Then on Monday, I did the last thing I had to do. I served him with papers, but not just for divorce, for elder abuse, for financial fraud, and for breach of fiduciary duty on a power of attorney agreement he never legally canceled. Because guess what? I was still Frank's medical POA on file at the VA, and that meant Travis had no right to move him, make decisions, or steal money in his name. Rachel helped me file every document. Travis's phone blew up with court summonses and freezing orders. Michelle stopped answering his calls the same day. And Cheryl? She got a nice little visit from Adult Protective Services. I had kept detailed logs of how she treated Frank, including video. She was removed from the house a week later and placed under investigation. The house? I let the bank have it. Let them foreclose. I didn't care anymore. I got a small apartment near work. Quiet. Clean. No lies under the carpet. Travis tried to contact me once, through a letter. It said, "You humiliated me. I lost everything. I hope you're happy." I didn't respond, but I was happy. For the first time in years, I didn't have to clean someone else's mess. 2 weeks after the house was emptied and Cheryl was hauled off by APS, I thought maybe, just maybe it was over. But I was wrong. That was just the start of the real storm. See, what I didn't know yet, what hadn't come to light, was how deep Travis had sunk himself. The money he took from our equity refinance, that was just the tip of it. There were other loans, ones he'd never told me about, ones he took out using my name. It started with a call from a debt collector, a woman named Gina. She was polite, professional, but firm. "Mrs. Broderick," she said. We're reaching out about a past due loan of $27,500 taken in 2023 from Cleargate Capital. It's listed under your name and social security number. I felt the blood drain from my face. I never took that loan. She paused. Well, the signature and SSN match. We've also got an address listed at 481 Hazel Street. That was my old address, the one Travis used for his side businesses. I told her everything, filed a fraud report. Then I called Rachel again. She did some digging. By the end of the week, she found 5 more loans, totaling over $112,000, all tied to me. Travis had forged my signature on every one. He'd used old joint tax returns to back them up, claimed we were co-owners of a business called TMB Advisory Group, which didn't even exist anymore. He used me to build a fake credit funnel. I felt sick. I filed police reports, opened up fraud claims. That part was long, boring, painful. The banks dragged their feet. The credit bureaus were slow to react. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was the call I got from Cheryl's niece, Beth. She was the only relative in that family who had any sense. "Hey, Diane," she said awkwardly. "I don't know if this matters to you anymore, but my aunt's got early-stage dementia. That's why she was acting so crazy. She's being moved to a state home." I didn't know what to say. Beth continued. "But that's not why I called. I found something in her room, in an old shoe box." She emailed it to me. It was a handwritten letter from 2018. From Frank. It said, "If anything happens to me, Diane should be the one to decide, not Travis. He doesn't care about me. He's only after the VA money. He already asked me once to transfer my benefits. I said no. He got angry." It was dated, signed, notarized. A scanned copy was enough to reopen the VA inquiry, which led to a full audit of Travis's activity with Frank's benefits account. Turns out, he'd been skimming for years, submitting fake care reports, claiming I was a paid full-time nurse when I wasn't being paid anything, falsifying hours, billing for therapy sessions Frank never received. He'd pulled over $38,000 from the VA under false care claims. That's when the VA filed federal charges. I didn't find out until I got a call from an agent in Harrisburg who asked if I'd be willing to testify. I said yes. Travis was arrested that May. It made the local paper, just a small column in the back. "Man charged with defrauding VA benefits, facing federal inquiry." He made bail. Of course he did. Some sleazy lawyer helped him out. He was still walking around free, still trying to spin the story. The next week, I got served. He was suing me for emotional distress. Said I'd intentionally humiliated him, caused his mother's breakdown, and sabotaged his career. I couldn't believe it. He had no money, no house, no real job, but he had enough nerve to take me to court. I cried, not because I was scared of losing, but because it felt endless, like he'd never stop taking from me. Rachel told me not to worry. He's desperate. He knows the feds are coming. He's just throwing stones now. But it wasn't over. One night, I came home from work, tired, sore, shoes soaked from a spilled mop bucket, and found a bouquet of flowers at my door. Big, tacky, bright red roses. No note. I froze. My stomach turned. Then I looked up and saw the camera I'd installed outside blinking red. I checked the footage. It was Travis, at 2:17 a.m., standing at my front door for nearly 30 minutes, just staring. That same blank expression he always had when he was lying. I took the footage to the police, got a restraining order the next day. They issued a warning and told him to stay away. But 2 nights later, I heard tapping on my bedroom window. I called the police again. He was gone by the time they arrived. That's when Rachel said, "You need to leave, permanently, before he does something worse." So I took 2 weeks off work, packed everything that mattered into a rented van, and drove straight to Pittsburgh. Rachel set me up with a friend who needed a roommate. Nice neighborhood, no ties to Travis. I changed my phone number, filed for a legal name change, started over. Again. But I wasn't done with him. Not even close. Because while I was hiding, he was busy preparing for court. And he had no idea what I was planning next. The court date for Travis's bogus emotional distress lawsuit came fast. Too fast. I hadn't even unpacked half my things in Pittsburgh when the paperwork arrived. His lawyer requested an in-person hearing. Typical move. He wanted me to face him in a room again, where he could try and manipulate me like the old days. Rachel came with me. We drove back to Harrisburg that morning, both of us silent in the car. I wasn't nervous, just tired, like I was dragging 10 years of garbage behind me, ready to dump it all at once. The courtroom wasn't crowded, just a handful of faces. But when Travis walked in, I almost didn't recognize him. He looked older, thinner, hair greased back too hard, same expensive suit, but now it hung off him like it didn't belong. He sat down across from me, eyes locked, like he expected fear. I gave him nothing. His lawyer stood up and delivered some laughable speech about how I embarrassed him publicly, that I acted maliciously, that I violated the sanctity of marriage. He used big, performative words like emotional sabotage and domestic betrayal. When it was my turn, I stood, and I spoke clearly. "Your Honor," I said, "this man forged my name on 6 different loan agreements, drained our joint savings, stole money from his disabled father's VA benefits, cheated on me with his ex-wife under my roof, and filed false medical claims in my name for care I provided for free. He also violated a restraining order by showing up at my house at night. I have police reports. I have camera footage. I have documents." The judge looked at me, then at Travis, and said flatly, "Is this all true, Mr. Broderick?" His lawyer tried to deflect. "We're not here to litigate those matters today, Your Honor." The judge cut him off. "Do you have evidence that contradicts what she's presented?" Travis just sat there, jaw tight, hands fidgeting. "No," he said. The judge dismissed the case. But that wasn't the satisfying part. The satisfying part came a month later, when the federal charges from the VA audit became public record. His name and photo were printed on the front page of the Harrisburg Daily Tribune. Local man charged in $38,000 veterans care fraud. The ex-wife testifies against him. Turns out, the VA case had picked up steam after my testimony. They went all the way back to 2021. The audit found even more claims, over $60,000 in total. Travis had been billing for hours he said I worked, sending fake reports and pocketing the payments. That alone carried a possible 10 years in federal prison. The media didn't go easy on him either. Veterans groups picked it up on social media. There were Facebook posts calling him scum, thief, coward. The local VFW chapter even filed a petition to have all funds seized and returned to the state. His mugshot was shared over 4,000 times. Michelle? She disappeared. I got an anonymous message on Facebook from a woman named Carla, who said she worked with Michelle at a real estate office. Said she quit 2 days after the story broke. She told us she had no idea he was stealing money. Carla wrote, "But people talk. She's basically blacklisted. Serves her right." And Cheryl? Still rotting in that state-run nursing home in Carlisle. The place doesn't allow smoking, doesn't have cable. She shares a room with a 93-year-old who screams in her sleep. Poetic, in a way. One last thing happened. I wasn't going to mention it, but it mattered. 3 months after the case closed, I got a knock on my apartment door. It was Travis's daughter, Nina. I hadn't seen her in 6 years. She stood there, arms crossed, looking like she wanted to punch something, or maybe just scream. "I don't expect you to say anything," she said. "But I just wanted to tell you, I'm sorry." I nodded. She took a shaky breath. "I found out what he did. All of it. I didn't believe it at first, but when I saw the court documents, I felt sick. I should have known." "You couldn't have," I said. "He fooled all of us." She looked down. "He's trying to call me. Said he wants to make things right. Told him I'm not interested. I changed my number. Cut him off. I didn't know what to say. But then she added, he used to talk trash about you all the time. Called you pathetic. Said you were lucky to have him. But I see now. You were the only decent person he had. And with that, she left. Just like that. No dramatic hugs. No reunion speech. Just a small piece of closure. Today, it's been almost a year. I'm still in Pittsburgh. I rent a tiny one-bedroom, work steady hours, and have peace. Real peace. I started volunteering at the local VA center on weekends. It felt right. Like maybe I could undo some of the damage he caused. Travis? He took a plea deal. Got 7 years in a federal correctional facility in West Virginia. No parole. He sent me one last letter, handwritten, for pages long. I burned it without opening it. Some words don't need to be heard.